Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we're going to be talking about 16 weapon attachments coming out in Battlefield 4 that you're going to want to know about because these are going to give you a strategic advantage over your enemy. Now, I'm not going to be addressing attachments that we're already familiar with from Battlefield 3 like the heavy barrel. We all know the heavy barrel is going to make your bullets fly faster and more accurately. I'm going to be talking about new ones, things that are doing things differently from Battlefield 3. Now, the first one on the list is the Coyote Red Dot Sight. This is the Chinese Red Dot Sight, and you might be thinking, well, why are you talking about this one Level? It's pretty much the exact same thing as the other Red Dot Sights in the game. And for the most part, you're right, except that the Coyote Red Dot Sight has a red dot in the center instead of, say, the Cobra Sight, which has the 3 prongs. But it also seems to take up the least amount of the screen. So you're going to have the best viewable area on your screen and a singular dot in the center, which I think is easier to aim with than the 3-prong system that the Cobra Sight offers. So in my mind, I think this is going to be the go-to sight for most gamers looking to have the best sight available. The next weapon attachment is the Tactical Light. Now, this is not the same thing as the flashlight. There are in fact 2 different weapon attachments. One is called the flashlight, one is called the Tactical Light. Now, the Tactical Light only turns on while you're aiming down sights. This is a great addition to the game and something that I actually was sort of theorizing on and wanting in the game because it's something that is very necessary for running across open areas. You don't want your tactical light on giving away your position, but when you get into the action and you're ready to take out your opponents and potentially blind them while coming around the corners, you can do that easily by simply aiming down the sights without having to set up something weird with your mouse that toggles the flashlight on or off when you're aiming. That has sort of been a trick that people have been doing with lights and lasers. Well, you're not going to need to anymore with the new Tactical Light. The next weapon attachment of interest is the Laser Light Combo. Now, this is really cool that they're putting this in the game because this is a device that definitely exists in real life. It's a little box that attaches to the side of the gun. In fact, it's exactly what the laser in Battlefield 3 looks like, except that that actual box in real life generally comes with a flashlight on it. So I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work in game, but what I hope it will do is that it will have the laser on when you're not aiming down sights, and then it will turn on the flashlight when you are aiming down sights. Seems like that would be the best of both worlds, the ideal combination. It could be a very, very good attachment if that's what it does. Now, if you're not interested in putting a laser or a flashlight on your weapon in the accessories slot, you could in fact put on canted iron sights or a 2x sight magnifier, giving you multiple sighting options. I think this is going to be a really interesting addition to the game and allow players to vary up their playstyle from close quarters to long range on the fly. So canted iron sights could work really well with, say, an ACOG sight, so you could switch between 4x magnification and then your iron sights. And a 2x magnifier gives you even more options. You could either use the 2x magnifier with a basic red dot sight, or you can even combine it with magnified sights, increasing the magnification further, giving you some pretty good long range options. Now, how about the barrel attachments of the weapons? Well, we got the heavy barrel, we got a whole bunch of suppressors that all look like they do the same thing, they just look different aesthetically. But the new flash hider, which visually looks exactly the same as the old flash hider, this time doesn't give you any sort of penalties for equipping it. Now, you might be thinking, well, this isn't really a big deal. I beg to differ. I think it actually is going to be a really big deal and a very important attachment for people using light machine guns. Now, getting rid of that muzzle flash is not only really important for trying to conceal your location because it's very easy to spot a big flame burst across the map, but also when you're aiming down sights with a machine gun, that muzzle flash can really obstruct your field of view and make it hard for you to track targets. Something that I really had an issue with LMGs in Battlefield 3. So having a flash hider, I think, that doesn't have any sort of aiming down sights or hip firing penalty now, it's going to be a really nice option. Let's talk about some of the new underbarrel attachments that are actually going to change up the game quite a bit. In Battlefield 3, we had the foregrip. It kind of reduced your side-to-side recoil a bit, but gave you an aiming down sights penalty. And it was sort of this weird trade-off. People weren't sure whether you should use it or whether you should not use it. There's tons of studies into like, oh, the foregrip's better for this gun, but not this gun. Well, in Battlefield 4, we now have 6 different grips to choose from. Effectively, there's only 3 different types of grips. Each option, though, has 2 aesthetic choices. The first ones are the angled foregrip and the folding foregrip. These should be really excellent choices for people using DMRs or burst fire weapons because they're going to reduce your initial recoil. You know how the first bullets coming out of your gun have much higher kickback than the follow-up shots? Well, this angled and folding foregrip are going to reduce that initial recoil by about 50%. So DMRs are going to be a lot easier to keep on target for that single firing, and then burst firing, you're not going to have to deal with such a kickback in between every single burst. Not to mention, pretty much any other weapon in the game having reduced recoil is going to be a big help anyway. I can see the angled foregrip and the folding grip being some of the top choices for underbarrel attachments. Then there's the stubby grip and the potato grip. Now what these grips do is they allow you to quickly transition from sprinting into aiming down sights. Now you might think, well, this seems kind of like a weird addition to have in the game, and I gotta say, if you're trying it out, it's going to be great for players with quick reflexes, twitch players, people who like to bunny hop around the map and then stop and shoot at somebody. We've all been in those situations where you're rushing an objective, the enemy team's dug in, they have good cover, and you're coming around a corner and somebody pops out from behind some cover. They're already aiming down sights, they're ready to shoot at you, and the time it takes for you to stop sprinting, bring up your gun, aim down sights, and start returning fire is long enough that you're pretty much guaranteed to lose that firefight. These grips should help you out in those specific situations. Then we have the ergo grip and the vertical grip. Now the vertical grip is back from Battlefield 3, but this time it's doing something completely different. What these grips do is they allow you to have better accuracy while you're moving around, both while aiming down sights or firing from the hip. Your accuracy bloom, your accuracy spread is reduced by 50%. This is a huge benefit, and it's going to work incredibly well on weapons with good hip fire that you're going to be running and gunning with. If you use it in combination with a laser sight, it's going to be even better, and I can already imagine some combinations in my head. Think of any of the Engineer PDWs or bullpup weapons using vertical grips and a laser sight. They're going to be absolute death machines when shooting from the hip. Now the next weapon attachments I want to talk about are all recon specific, and they all kind of work together. They're all related. The first one is the Hunter 20 times sight. This is a very high times magnification sight. The highest one we had in Battlefield 3 was only 12 times. This leads me to believe that there's going to be some even longer range engagements. And then on top of that, we're getting the ballistic 40 times sight. I cannot believe we're actually getting a 40 times sight in this game. It's kind of like having a telescope on your gun. Then you also have a 14 times variable zoom, which can be used with any high-powered sight. And this just gives you a lot of options. Say you have a 40 times crazy long range ballistic sight, and you just don't need that kind of magnification because you see some guy who's only 100 feet away from you and you don't want his head the size of your entire screen when you aim down sights. Well, the variable zoom sight will allow you to reduce it to a 14 times zoom sight, so it just gives you more options. Now the coolest accessory that I think people are going to really have fun with using with these high powered sights is going to be the rangefinder. So having a 40 times ballistic sight with a rangefinder is going to be really, really useful. If you're sniping somebody from like a mile away, you're going to want that rangefinder to really zero in your sight at the proper distance. Otherwise, getting those headshots or even hitting anybody in general is going to be incredibly hard. I think using the combination of rangefinder and 40 times sight is going to allow snipers to actually hit their targets much more frequently compared to Battlefield 3 from those extreme distances. We're getting a lot more options for how to customize our weapons in Battlefield 4 compared to Battlefield 3. I think all these attachments are really well thought out. It's going to be a lot of fun customizing your gun now with accessories, lots of new optics, lots of new underbarrel stuff. It's just going to give you so many options for really tweaking your gun to either do one specific thing really well or maybe a whole variety of things decently. Looking forward to it a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.